I, 45 female, have a 27-year-old daughter. She has 6 kids between tweens and an infant. There are 3 different fathers. She receives child support from 2 of them, and she's still with the 3rd one, and they have been for 5 years. My daughter works part-time and her fiancé is a chef full-time. They've lived with us for a year and a half due to getting evicted from their last home. The kids and they have our upstairs bedrooms. There are 2, but that's still crowded for 6 children. They constantly ask me for help with phone bills. My husband and I have asked for no rent so they could save money to get a home, which I do not believe they were doing. I've put up with loud voices throughout all hours and waking up at different hours to cater to children because I love my grandchildren. I never complain to my daughter because I believe family is very important. It's just that my children are all grown up. My youngest moved out 4 years ago and my husband and I had hoped to remodel. We didn't expect them to be living here this long. On Christmas Eve, my daughter gathered us around and announced they were pregnant with baby number 7. Everyone was all excited, but I felt dread. That would mean another child in our house with little room. I looked over at my husband and could tell he felt the same. We discussed it later and decided to ask them to move out. Last night at dinner, I brought it up to my daughter and her boyfriend, and we told them they have 2 months to find a place because we cannot have another child here. My daughter started crying, saying she couldn't believe I'd throw her to the streets for having a baby, that this was completely unfair and not enough time. I told her I was sorry, it was also painful for me, but these living conditions were impossible. She demanded I give her more time or she'd go to the courts, and I told her, newsflash, the courts only give you 30 days. She then said my grandchildren were going to be homeless because I was selfish. She made a Facebook post asking for rooms to rent because she's pregnant and has nowhere to go and her family doesn't give a crap about her. Am I the idiot? Jesus, 7 kids at 27? That's insane, especially when she basically has no stability. Doesn't she know what's free at Planned Parenthood? Birth control, pill, shot, implant, IUD. I can't imagine how a person could be so young with so many kids and still think that having intimacy without taking every precaution to prevent conception is a good idea. If you don't kick her out, I can guarantee you that within 5 years, she will exceed 10 children, if not more. Not the idiot, but why did you wait until she had 6 kids before putting down boundaries? Yeah, it's not just about having another kid either. It's the fact that they don't respect your home or the sacrifices you and your husband are making for her and her kids. She probably doesn't do much around the house either, does she? Nor do I believe she contributes to the groceries outside of buying herself and her boyfriend certain items they like and keeping them put up for themselves. She needs to change her life and start planning for her future drastically and the future of her children because they will have a tough time in life, and I'm sad to say she's already ruined hers. I think everyone's the idiot here. 27 years old and going on to 7 children by 3 different bio dads. I'm side-eyeing you and your husband's parenting. Know this, right now you are doing the right thing, because if you and your husband don't act now, you will take care of them forever. Also, I'm super curious about her going to the courts empty threat. What the heck? As she calls it, the courts only care if there's a rental agreement. I hope OP doesn't have a rental agreement with her, right? OP, your daughter has been having babies since she was a teen. She never will if she hasn't figured out how not to get pregnant by now. Anyone who tells a relative who let their family live rent-free in their home that they take them to court after they ask them to move out never intended for it to be a temporary arrangement. She needs a wake-up call, and you need to establish boundaries with them. Good luck, OP. You're gonna need it. I, 32 male, Buddy, 33 male, is marrying a girl our friend group is not in love with. He loves her though, so we support him. We've known for months this was a New Year's Eve wedding. I RSVP'd yes months ago with my wife. Several friends and I operated under the assumption that there would be alcohol at the wedding, especially considering it was on New Year's Eve. Well, I found out yesterday that it's a dry wedding. It turns out because of his fiancée and her family. I asked my wife if she knew this and she said no and was angry. I texted the groom buddy and asked. He confirmed this. I told him this is something you should have told us long ago. I told him that my wife and I wouldn't be going. We want to spend the night drinking. I texted the rest of my friends about this and the group chat went off. This led to several more people backing out. This is not how a bunch of us expected to spend New Year's Eve. The only ones that didn't back out were the 4 members of our 12-person group that were in the wedding. My groom buddy reached out to me and went off. He's now overspending on catering. He's having 20-ish fewer guests show up than planned, and this is all last minute. I've been called an idiot, among other things, for leading the charge in people not attending the wedding. Am I the idiot? Edit, this was never mentioned to any of us in the friend group. Not in person, not on the invitation. It was assumed that there would be alcohol as our buddy drinks. I found out via a mutual friend that was also invited. Nothing is directly told to us by the bride or groom. I love drinking and hate a dry wedding as much as the next guy, but you can show up to the wedding ceremony, spend an hour or two at the reception and then get blackout intoxicated if that is an absolute must for you. Backing out last minute and letting your friends know he's not worth 2 hours of sobriety means you are the idiot by miles and miles. Weddings aren't meant for drinking all night, as you mentioned. They're for celebrating and supporting the couple. I think this is more about not liking the bride, and this was the perfect excuse not to attend. Agree, if drinking means more to you than a friendship, you might need to evaluate a few things. OP and these other so-called friends of the groom care more about getting intoxicated than they care about the groom. It's just too much of a sacrifice for them to be sober for a few hours on one of the dozens of New Year's Eves they'll enjoy in their lives to be with a friend on his wedding day. The groom needs to get better friends than this bunch of idiots. And like, at 32, to not be able to give up a night of drinking? Wow, alcohol is not more important than a friend's wedding. I thought maybe a 22-year-old would think something like this, but a 32-year-old? Actually, I can't believe that any of you are in your 30s. All of you are acting like a bunch of children. Beyond that, though, I've never seen such a clear picture from such a small post of how the entire group is just a bunch of idiots. You don't support each other in any sense of the word. You just go through the motions and trash talk each other behind each other's backs. At least your friend has the courage to confront you personally for costing him thousands of dollars by ruining his wedding mere days before it happens. My wife, Lisa, 29, and I, 30 male, have been married for 2 years. We both work and have no kids. Recently, Lisa's dog Mango, our dog now, but Lisa's had Mango for a decade before we met, needed surgery that cost about $7,000, which made money pretty tight for us. I took out a pet care loan for a significant portion of the surgery under my name. If we pay it off in a year, we won't have interest. So we made a monthly budget to get it paid off within 1 year, and we've been paying it out of our joint account. Also recently, my younger brother Johnny, 27, who has a history of addiction and mental health issues, reached out to me asking for a $2,000 loan because he needed legal fees for a custody battle with his baby mama. In the last few years, whenever he asks for money, everyone in my family refuses because it will go to sugar, but this last year he's been clean and able to hold down a job. I care about him and he's had a really hard childhood compared to the rest of the siblings, so I get why he ended up the way he did and want to help him this time. Johnny said he'd pay me back, but I have a rule of never expecting it back when I give money to family, which I rarely do. I decided to take on a bunch of extra shifts at work during the last month and made enough money to send to him. I had some left to add to our monthly pet loan payment. I told Lisa the plan, thinking she'd be happy we could help Johnny out and also have some additional funds towards pet loan payments. But she was angry that I was sending money to John when it could all go towards the loan. The way I see it, we already have a monthly budget for the loan and we can pay it off in time without interest. I know that Mango is ours now, but technically that's my stepdog, for which I'm assuming responsibility because I love Lisa. When we found out how much Mango's surgery would cost, everyone advised us to put her down because she is also very old. But she went ahead with the surgery without thinking twice because Lisa loves Mango, and both of our paychecks are going towards paying off her surgery. Meanwhile, I worked extra hours on my own to help my brother out so he could pay legal fees to be able to see his son. I told Lisa that if she wanted to pay off the pet loan earlier than the pre-planned schedule, I would take on more shifts at work this month too, but Lisa just seemed angry that I would want to help Johnny at all. I don't understand why she expects us not to think twice about a $7,000 pet bill to save our 14-year-old dog, but is upset that I want to send $2,000 to my brother so he can see his child. I sent Johnny the money and I'm sleeping on the couch now for that, but I don't think I did anything that outrageous. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot, not for wanting to help your brother, but you should not have given him the money directly. You should have paid it directly to his lawyer or whatever organization he's using. I can see where your wife is leaning towards a bill she knows you both have rather than believe that your brother will be using the money as he states. You just handed him one heck of a temptation. That's exactly my thought. Directly pay the agency providing the service. An influx of cash can be a trigger that ends sobriety. Household finances have to be agreed upon. You agreed to the pet loan. She disagrees with the $2,000 gift since you don't expect it back. Dude, that amount of money should have been a conversation between you and your wife before agreeing to help your brother. I understand you want to help and love him, but you and your wife are a team. I disagree. Opie is not the idiot. I think giving a person who's 1 year sober and trying to better himself is at least as wise as taking out a loan for a dog who is 14. I know people have a huge soft spot for dogs and a disdain for people with addiction, but Opie has good intentions. Also, he's paying it all himself by picking up extra shifts specifically for this purpose. It's not like he's using their shared money. He can also stick to their originally outlined payment schedule. I just don't see the idiot territory here. My 27 female cousin, 23 female, was diagnosed with leukemia and is not doing well. I feel terrible for her, but I was never close to her growing up. We grew up in different countries. I'm getting married in spring. My aunt came over 2 weeks ago to discuss something. She wants me to let my cousin walk down the aisle with her dad before I walk. I don't feel comfortable with this because it's sad that she won't get to experience this, but isn't it my day to shine? My aunt says that I'm being selfish for not doing this. She spoke to my parents about this and they don't seem too happy. My in-laws are not pleased too, but they still want me to decide. My fiancé doesn't feel comfortable either. My aunt brought my cousin to my place to discuss it last week. Cousin cried, saying she wanted to walk down the aisle and that I should let her. I told her it was my wedding day, so it was unacceptable for her to take over. She then called me selfish and a bridezilla for not caring about her. We were never close, so I don't know why she's trying to do this on my wedding day. I told her I needed more time to think, so she's on Instagram posting cryptic stuff, obviously attacking me. I talked to my friends for non-biased opinions and they were divided. Some want me to allow her to walk her down the aisle because she would never experience that and I'll be doing something nice. Am I the idiot if I say no? If she wants to walk down the aisle, why must it be at your wedding? Why can't your aunt plan a ceremony for your cousin? Not the idiot, it's an unreasonable request. You were right to turn it down. Also, I feel if you allowed her to do that, she'd show up in a wedding dress. Right? It's not her day. She doesn't get to be the center of attention. She doesn't get to do the things the bride does, and she doesn't get to try and guilt trip you for saying no. I'd be fully prepared for her to wear white to the wedding, or for her to try and spill something on your dress. Be sure to warn them that should they even attempt anything on your big day, they will be removed by force if necessary. If you think they would anyway, uninvite them, but be vocal about why. Does your cousin want to pretend that she's the one marrying your fiancé? Does she want to borrow your groom too? She doesn't have a partner waiting for her at the end of the aisle. And if she does want to pretend she's marrying your fiancé, that's an insane request. I'm going to put this out there. It sounds like this is more for your aunt and not her sick daughter. Poor lady wants to see her child get married on your dime. My sister has a tween daughter. She's her affair partner's child. I knew the guy, he was really abusive, so my sister chose to hide it from him and pretended it was her husband's child. A few months ago, her husband found out the child wasn't his and decided he didn't want to raise the child anymore and sent her to our parents' home of the kid. Why are your parents blaming your wife instead of their daughter? Additionally, the biological father has parental rights. There are a lot of legal details to sort through before you can consider taking a child in. If those issues can be overcome, I would ask, what is in the child's best interest? Yeah, my heart goes out to her too. She's being passed around like an unwanted bag of French fries. Doesn't anyone love the child? If they're married and he signed the birth certificate, he's legally her father. Can someone call Child Protective Services on mom and legal dad for abandoning their kid? This poor kid. Mom, legal father and bio father all sound like idiots. The grandparents are much better for blaming the OP instead of their daughter for this mess. You are not the idiot. The niece was not kicked out. You just chose not to accept the request to take in and raise someone else's child. That is perfectly fine. The real idiot is your sister. This is her child. Apparently the ultimatum was her husband or her daughter, and she chose her husband even if it meant sending her tween daughter to an abusive father whom she'd never met. The niece did nothing wrong and her world is turned upside down. Sister and husband are terrible. I could see the husband being upset, but to throw out a child that he raised as his own for that many years because of his pride is awful.